The site of the Salem witch trial hangings finally has a memorial. This is an article that really kind of tugged at my own heartstrings because I have experience with this. I lived in Salem, Mass for like 3-4 years, and it's one of my favorite cities in all of the world. So 8 years ago, Erin O'Connor and her husband, they bought a house overlooking a wooden ledge in Salem, Massachusetts. And they had no idea why this parcel stood empty. It's in within sight of a large Walgreens. Yes, it's behind a Walgreens. And people kept stopping and taking pictures of this empty site, and they wondered why. Why are people taking pictures of our property that's behind a Walmart? I'm sorry, a Walgreens. And if they'd been there in 1692, they would have known why, because that's when this rocky ledge next door turned into a site of mass execution, when the bodies of people hanged as witches were dumped into a low spot beneath the ledge, known as, quote, the crevice. In the night when the hangings were over, locals heard the sounds of grieving families who snuck over to gather up their dead and secretly bury them elsewhere. But for much of history, this site sat quietly obscured by woods and buildings. A leather tannery and railroad operated nearby, and in recent years, houses began to spring up around it. Yes, and for much of Salem, the history has faded despite the town's outsized reputation. Now it will finally be commemorated when Salem Mayor Kimberly Driscoll... Wow, Kimberly Driscoll is still the mayor of Salem. She was the mayor when I was there. She had just became the mayor. She was actually I met her a long time ago because she was the lawyer for Salem State College, which is a college I went to, and I had a small legal issue, I remember, and she helped me with it. She was like the free lawyer for the students there. I went there a couple years, and she helped me with this this case that I had. It's now called Salem University, by the way. Okay, so Salem Mayor Kimberly Driscoll dedicates a memorial below Proctor's Ledge, it's called. Proctor is, I think, the name of the judge, right? The date coincides with the first of 3 mass executions there. Oh, 3 of them? Okay, on the same day in 1692, 5 women were hanged from a tree on the ledge, and their bodies fell into the crevice where the memorial now marks their names. Later, victims came by and were also hung. There was a total of, I believe, 19 hangings overall, and if you've never been to Salem, Mass... oh, yes, it says here, in the 325 years since 19 of the falsely accused were hanged as witches in Salem, the coastal town has never forgot what happened. And most of the trial activity took place in Salem. Some of the young accusers lived in Salem Village, later renamed Danvers. Somehow the site of the hangings had until now faded from memory, replaced by an obsession with the, quote, witches themselves, and the tourism that's surrounding Witch City. You can see there when you visit there. And 250,000 visit what's called the haunted happenings around Halloween each year. Yes, and I worked at a restaurant there that would get crazy in October. Haunted happenings. Oh, man, I made tons of money waiting tables during that time. I love Salem, Mass so much. I just think it's marvelous. It's so chock full of history and beauty. And if you love old school New England cities, it doesn't get any better than Salem, Mass, with these old cobblestone walkways and roads that are still in place from the mid 1600s, buildings that are standing from the late 1600s still there, old creepy burial grounds that are there with some of the city's most notable figures that were even involved in these early Salem witch trials still buried there. Fantastic. Witch tours, ghost tours, you name it. There's a Wiccan community there. It's fantastic. And on top of it, it's right on the water. It's beautiful. It's right on the ocean. And a little north of Boston, and I love it. I can't recommend Salem, Mass enough. And it's a really weird place, and I love weird places. And so for that reason, Salem always will be a place that I hold near and dear to my heart.